This race is the Subway Fresh Fit 500. That is 500 kilometers or 312 turns around this 1 mile racetrack.
And pit road speed 45 miles per hour. The pit window for Sunoco race fuel 70 to 80 laps.
Mark Martin on pole. He loved the way his car worked in practice.
DW, we love racing under the lights. Saturday night's all right for fighting. Reach up there and pull those belts tight. One more time.
All right, Mr. Martin. Hold it down, hold it down. Wait on the flagman. Wait on the flagman. Green flag's out. Buggity, buggity, buggity. Let's go racing, boys.
Look at the run that Kyle Busch and that 18 car is getting on the high side, but it looks like Mark Martin will lead lap 1.
You know, last night Kyle did the same thing in the nationwide race. He jumped to the outside and took everybody by surprise and was able to grab the lead right on the start.
Gordon looking for third underneath Kurt Busch. Thought better of it. Jeff Gordon in the 24 as the Busch brothers dueled for second. Right behind them, side by side for fifth. Here comes Stewart on the inside.
That little bit of smoke we saw in turn 1 out of the 18 car, that's just a little brake lockup. Brakes are a little cold. They'll be fine. No problem.
You know, I think so much has been said about Hendrick Motorsports, but I think Darrell said this in the pre-race. That's a guy to watch, I think, tonight is Tony Stewart, that 14 car.
I mean, he's just getting better and better every week. He's getting more and more comfortable. It wouldn't surprise me to see him win tonight. Even next week at Talladega, I think he's going to be strong.
And I don't think anyone here has more laps on this racetrack in more different types of race cars than Tony Stewart. Biffle and Earnhardt battling for 14th. Biffle, a winner last night here in the nationwide race.
He had an awesome car last night, Mike. Biffle did. And, man, he was able to hold guys off even when he had old tires and they had new ones.
I tell you what, watching and listening to Dale Earnhardt Jr. yesterday in final practice, he seemed about as happy as he has been with his car in a long time in a final practice session.
Well, Larry, I think when you come to a track where you know you can run good, that you like, having a good attitude has a lot to do with how you run, and he's got a good attitude this week.
Juan Pablo Montoya on the outside of Casey Kane and the 17 of Matt Kenseth. That battle is for 17th.
You're just going to see that outside line. When you get off a 2 over there and you're up high, you just get a lot of speed off the corner and you shut the door on the guy on the bottom. It's a shorter route around the bottom, but it's faster around the top.
Look at that glare. Well, the drivers are seeing it just as you are from the onboard camera.
We talked about the crew chiefs having to make changes to the race car. These drivers will have to make changes. Some of them are wearing sunglasses. Some have a lot of tape on the windshield. You can almost see it on the inside of the windshield of the 42 car Montoya's.
Jimmy Johnson was saying you've got to find a place down on the wall to get you a mark so that you know where you are getting into that corner before you're braking and entering that turn. And he didn't say put a mark on the wall. He said find a place on the wall.
Racing for 17th position here as Mark Martin has led every lap. Bit of a tire rub on Dale Jr. on the left front of his Chevy.
And that may have been from that tight racing with Greg Biffle in the 16 car. He's now pulled in front of Greg Biffle in the 16. That's put Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 14th spot.
Ryan Newman had trouble pulling away from the starting grid. The car wouldn't fire and needed a push. Chris Devoto.
That's right, Mike. Trouble for the 39 team before the race even started. If you were watching the pre-race, you saw the crew members run down the front stretch trying to give that car a push. They were able to get it fired. The starter was hung, but they fear should he stall, they will not be able to get it fired again with the starter.
And boy, Larry, that just bothers me. These guys, remember, I think it was California. They had to come in before the race ever started, had a transponder that was not on the car, broke the rear wing when they were in the pits, and now it's not good to start the race this way.
I think one thing we need to make clear, we had a very unusual schedule here. This was a 2-day show. We had all of the practice, 2 practice sessions totaling 3.5 hours before qualifying. They didn't impound the cars. The teams could work on the cars, but they have not been on the track since qualifying yesterday afternoon.
Ryan Newman had been a threat for the pole, but was disappointed and lined up for this race 30th.
And honestly, the only concern on the starter would be if we have a red flag where they had to shut the engine off and then had to refire.
Or if you stalled the engine coming out of the pit, you know, that's a problem. But, you know, remember, I think it was yesterday, Jeff Gordon had a starter issue when practice started. So if I'm got a Hendrick engine right now and say, hey, what's going on with these starters? It's not a big deal, Larry. You need it.
You need it. It's just along for the ride.
6th place battle, David Rudiman in the 00, Brian Vickers in the 83, and they're about a second behind Tony Stewart.
And you know, David Rudiman in that 00 car, I think we all keep wondering, okay, boy, he got a little bit loose in the middle of 3 and 4 that time. Brian Vickers tucked up behind him. When is this team going to falter? But they're just not really faltering. You see right there, 11th in the Sprint Cup Series points after 7 races.
Matt Yoakum.
And when you talk to David Rudiman, he'll tell you one of the biggest things about this year is just his confidence. So much better than last year. In fact, at this place, he said comparing this car to the car he had a year ago, it's 50 times better. When you talk to his team, they say that's one of the bigger differences, plus just the chemistry between himself and his new crew chief in 2009. And it shows in the racetrack week in, week out.
And, you know, David, they've nicknamed him the franchise. And he is. The better he does, the better Michael Waltrip Racing will do. There's no question about that. They even have T-shirts that they're selling now at the souvenir rig with the franchise on it.
Riding with Denny Hamlin, he is the 10th place car. Mark Martin has led every one of the 12 laps so far in Phoenix.